Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over a few items a few more items actually to go in my studio. And I'm going to start with this little tiered tray. And I'm going to give it 2 coats of the color buttercream. And I'm going to paint the inside and out and the bottoms. But I won't be painting the handle. But I just give this 2 coats of the color buttercream and let it dry well. And I'm sorry if I'm boring you guys with all these items to go in my studio. I'm actually going to take a little break from that and start back with stocking the store, because I'm starting to get behind there again. And so I'll be getting back to my regular thrift flips after this one. I may veer off a little every now and then with some of the other projects that I've got going on around the store, but I should be finished with this room for just a little while anyway. So once I get 2 coats on this, then I'm going to be going over it with a clear wax. So I just brush on some clear wax and wipe that off. And then that's all that I'm going to do to seal that. And then because I'm going to be working this into my little craft room, and I have some gold touches in there, I'm taking some bronze and gold gilding wax. And I'm just kind of brushing both of them on there. I want the bronze because I want the gold to look more aged. And then I'll just kind of brush a little bit of the gold over the top of that. And I'm going to leave the handle just like it is, but this black iron I want to cover up. And then I also decided to rub some of that around the top and bottom rims of each of the tiers, just to kind of bring that look to that also. And then I'm just loving the subtle difference that makes. And although I didn't plan on putting feet on this because it's going to be on one of the shelves, I decided to go ahead and put some small feet on it because I just felt like it looked so unfinished without some feet. So I'm using my little, I guess you call them barrel feet that I thrifted. And I'm going to glue 4 of those on the bottom with some Titebond. But before I do that, I'm going to take this gilding wax and use it to paint those feet, because when I bought them, they were kind of a stained wood, and so this is going to cover them well. And again, I'm just using my finger to apply it on there, and it just takes seconds for me to paint each one of them. But then when they dry, I'm going to glue those with some Titebond onto the bottom, and then this will be finished. And sometimes I use a little bit of hot glue with that so that I'll have some instant hold also. But if I have plenty of time to wait, then I just omit that step, because if you're not careful, the hot glue will cause a little raised area that might keep your foot from getting good contact. So because I had some time to wait on this one, I just went ahead and glued it on with the Titebond. And I forgot to mention that I didn't use the clear wax on the bottom of this before I did this, because I was afraid it wouldn't glue well. So I just waited for my legs to dry before I added clear wax to the bottom of this. So now that will make some good storage for my craft area. And then the next item that I'm going to be doing is a cork board to put on my wall. And so I thrifted this one just like this, and I thought about taking the back off and covering this with cloth, or covering my cork with cloth, but I just decided it was just too much to remove the hangers and do all that. So I just decided to go ahead and paint the cork. I'm not going to paint the frame because I'm happy with the finish on that. It already has some natural distress on it. So I'm just going to put 2 coats of the color Buttercream, and that is the Dixie Belle color, on the cork, and let that dry well because I'm going to be decoupaging over the top of that. I thought about painting this and maybe applying some transfers, but I didn't want this cork. I didn't want it to be obvious that this cork was here, even though everybody is going to know it's there. I didn't want that cork look, the texture of the cork. So I just thought decoupaging a napkin over the top of it, which is what I'm going to be doing, 1 layer from a napkin over the top of it. And then I could actually go back over that and still do some transfers, but I decided not to, just to keep it simple, because I really couldn't find any transfers that wouldn't compete with the pattern that I put on this. I can always add some later if I choose to, and I even thought about adding some shabby flowers to one of the corners. And again, I may do that later, but right now I'm just going to keep it with the decoupage. And this is a napkin set that I bought at Target this year for fall, and I got it because it was a pretty fall look, but it wasn't limited to fall, so it worked well for Christmas, and now it's going to work well just for regular decor. So I love napkins like that are not limited. And this is a little bit of a gold, more of a fall gold, and so it's going to work really well with this room. So once I get this decoupaged on, and I'm going to have to piece this end, and I just make sure that I match my pattern up and piece the end. And let that dry. Then I'm going to be adding some more of the gilding wax just to this frame, but I'm not going to add a lot, just a little, just to kind of make it go with my other items. It's funny that I've never been a fan of gold at all, but I'm just loving the little touches in this room. And as I said in my other video, it was all inspired by a little candle that my sister gave me. And I don't worry with any of the imperfections from my napkin tearing, because I like that aged look anyway, and I feel like it kind of brings it together a little more with that aged or with that distressed damask print that I put on the drawers. This gilding wax came in my starter set when I first started selling Dixie Belle, and I didn't expect that I would use it at all, and I haven't ordered any to resell, but I think I'm going to, because I find myself using it way more than I thought that I would, so I think I will order a few to sell. But the great thing is, although this is a very small container, it lasts a long time. So because you're using just very little, you're just kind of touching your finger to it and then just kind of rubbing that on. So like I said, one little thing would last you a long time. And like I said, that's all I'm going to do to this for now. I may decide that I want to add a little something later, but for now, that's all that I'm going to do to this. And then the next item that I'm going to be making over is a couple of canisters. And someone had already spray painted them in the color gold. And the inside looked a little more aged gold. So that's going to work out. I'm just going to leave that just like it is on the inside. And I think I'll leave the lids gold, but I'm going to be painting the container. So I'm going to clean these with alcohol first. I like to clean any sticker residue off with alcohol. But even any item that I feel like might have any kind of residue that will keep the paint from sticking, alcohol is great for that. And my sister and I were painting on the she shed part of my store, and there's windows on it, and I very rarely tape off windows. I just go ahead and paint it and then take a razor blade and scrape it off. But I had let it dry overnight, and my sister was having a hard time scraping it, so we just put some alcohol on a cloth and soaked it good, and then it scraped right off. So anytime you're having trouble getting paint from glass, just put you a little bit of alcohol on it and give it about a minute, and then just start scraping, and it will just peel right off. So I feel like I go through a lot of alcohol for cleaning because it does such a good job cleaning, and yet you don't have the chemicals, or I just feel like it's a safe cleaner. So here again, I'm using the color buttercream, and I'm going to put 2 coats on the outside of these containers. I first thought these were spray painted gold, but I'm not sure now if they're spray painted gold or if they're just factory gold already. I almost think that they were just made that way to begin with, but it's going to work out well for my room to just paint these the buttercream, and then the lids, I'm not going to be painting those, but I am going to be trying to age that gold look, or brass. I guess this is probably more of a brass look. So like I said, once I get these painted, then I'm going to just take the lids and try to age them. And I'm going to do that by putting some brown wax on them. And so I dab it on there, and normally I would just wipe it off. But when I wipe off this slick finish, it really doesn't change it much at all, especially since likely these were factory gold already. So if they had been painted with chalk paint, it would have settled in there some, even without texture. But since they're not, I'm just taking my cloth and just kind of dabbing over the top until I get an even look, but I don't rub too much of that off. And then if I let this dry for a day or two, then this will be a good solid finish, and it won't take too much of this off. But as you can see there, it takes it from looking more brassy or even shiny gold to more of an antique gold, which was definitely what I was going for. And I'm getting most of this off. Like I said, I'm just kind of dabbing it so that I don't wipe too much of it off. But as you can see, it makes a really big difference in the 2 lids. So it's a very simple fix, I feel like, on this. And then I can keep those touches of gold without it just being too gold. So then after I finish the lids, then I'm going to stencil some design on the cans. And I wish I could tell you where I got this stencil. It was new, but I don't know if I thrifted it. I had to get it. I had to open the pack. I don't know if I thrifted it or if I was given it. I don't really remember ordering it, so I don't know where this came from. But I thought this would go well on these cans. And again, I wanted to use this gilding wax so that this stencil would look more aged, almost like it was worn off in places. And you have to really work it in there to make that work, because this is a thicker stencil than when I used my screen stencils. But I still was able to make it work, and the places that I didn't work it deep enough into that, then again, it just gave it more of an aged look, and that worked out fine. But if you haven't tried to stencil with these, this really works great. The only problem is you do have to clean this off, and it's not quite as easy to clean off as being able to just wipe off the paint with a damp cloth. This one, I had to use my alcohol, but again, the alcohol worked on this. So I like to clean my stamps with alcohol also, because it will take that stays on ink off. So I'm doing this on both of the cans, and then the little vine stencil I did all the way around the bottom. But as you can see, that just gives that a real subtle look, and just kind of makes these cans look like they came that way. So you just have to make sure that when you stencil around the bottom, you just kind of meet that stencil up where it needs to be, and that the design is not interrupted, and it just keeps going around. Now at the very end, you'll have a slight difference, but that's okay. You won't really notice that, and most likely that's going to be in the back. And then once I finished that, I felt like it still needed some of the gilding around the top and the bottom, so just added just a little bit. And like I said, it doesn't have to be even at all, because it's good for it to have that worn look. And I just take my finger and rub it around both the top and the bottom, and that really finished this off nicely. And I think these cans ended up being my favorite today. Because they're going to be some good storage. They're a large enough size, and I just really like the look of them. And then this, obviously this cork board that I am showing with these will be on the wall, on another wall. But here are my shelves in my shelving unit. This is the top shelf, and then these are the shelves that we did in the last video. And then I'm going to keep my bottom two shelves empty, so that I can put my printer and paper and things like that for storage. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.